Ellis County is considerably less than most communities our size. If you look at Pittsburgh, Emporia, Garden City, Dodge City, Salina, those kind of places, their mill levies are higher than ours in almost every case, and considerably higher in some cases. Our local mill levy in Hayes last year was, I think, 119, and Dodge City's was 177. So, and I assure you, property values are not much difference between Hayes and Dodge City.
I'm Cristina Janney with the Hayes Post and Eagle Radio, and I'm speaking with Doug Williams of Grow Hayes about property taxes on this episode of the Hayes Post podcast.
Property tax always a uplifting topic, but there's two components to the property tax amount. One is the levy, and the other is your property valuation. And the city of Hayes has held their levy at 25 mills for a long, long time, right at or around 25 mills. But they have collected more money, as has the county, as has the school district, because property valuations have gone up. So the end result is that our property taxes have risen. They've also risen because we voted to pass a school bond, which was important that we pass. And you see the results of that taking place around the community right now as we construct new schools and improve the schools we had. But, the simple fact is that city government, county government, and school districts, their costs increase each year, just like, unfortunately, our costs increase each year for groceries or gasoline or whatever it might be. And so they have to collect some more dollars. And the revenue neutral rate is a little bit of I think it's the state trying to rein things in, and it's not very effective, because I don't think it's realistic to think that cities and counties and school districts can operate on the same budget from year to year in the economic environment that we live in right now. So yes, they did vote to exceed the revenue neutral limit, and they did pass a budget last night.
Well, all three of those entities are not really raising their mill levies, at least not significantly. The increase was because there was higher valuations, because houses were selling for more this year than they have in the past. That's
correct. The houses, which the valuation is set by the county appraiser, and it's really set by the state. They have an algorithm that they plug into. The county tracks what things sell for, and because costs have risen and home values have increased, the property valuations have increased. It's, some people seem to think it's some nefarious plot that they're going to raise the price of housing up, and that's not the case. And in most cases, the value of the house is pretty much indicative of what the market value is. Not always. There are exceptions and outliers. Some will sell for more, some may not sell for as much. But it's usually a pretty good indication as to what the market value of a property is, what the county has, at least on residential properties.
We had a story on the Hayes Post here about a week or so ago about that discussion that they had from the appraiser at the county level about the cost of the appraised value was actually just a little under what the sale value of homes in Hayes were. And they had to do that through an audit and prove that they were within a certain percentage of sale value. So that's something that they're required to do by the state.
That's correct. State statute requires valuations to be within I don't know if it's 5% or what the number is, but within 5% of what the algorithm and the computer system tells them the house should be worth. So every couple of years they get audited and they have to be in compliance. And so they're careful about how they value things. Obviously, if you think that your property is overvalued, you have the right to appeal that and have a hearing, and they'll take a closer look at it. And that's everybody's right to do that. And if you feel strongly that your home is overvalued, you should do that. But, the other thing that I think is important, when people say property taxes are high, my reply is usually compared to what? And I think the only true comparison you can do is to compare it to other communities similar to our community and see where they rank. And I can tell you that Ellis County is considerably less than most communities our size. If you look at Pittsburgh, Emporia, Garden City, Dodge City, Salina, those kind of places, their mill levies are higher than ours in almost every case, and considerably higher in some cases. Our local mill levy in Hayes last year was, I think, 119, and Dodge City's was 177. So, and I assure you, property values are not much difference between Hayes and Dodge City.
Well, something that was mentioned at the school board meeting the other night was that, strong home prices are a sign of a prosperous community. So you don't want weak home prices. If you go to sell your house, you don't want to have a weak home price. You may want it to be low when it's appraised, but then you want it to be high when you sell.
A robust housing market with strong values is not a bad thing. Now, you don't want a bubble. We've seen that in this country before. We've seen a little bit of that in our community where we had so much demand and so little supply. It kind of got home prices a little bit out of whack. But for the most part, we don't have the peaks and valleys here that they do in some of the larger metropolitan areas or on the coast. But consistent, strong home values where people can sell their home if they want to and buy another home and do that kind of thing. That's a positive thing.
Well, and Grow Hayes and I think the city together and the school board and the county are working with, the incentive programs is to continue to develop housing in the community to keep, demand and supply, in line to keep those prices at a decent level.
Yeah, you've got to have sufficient supply, and we haven't had that in the past 5 to 10 years. And through, as you mentioned, through developments like Heart of America's Tallgrass Edition, where there's been 54 new homes constructed. The Grove, which is just now starting to be constructed, that will add more homes and at a specific demographic target that we're looking for, primarily retirees, which those people move out of existing homes and free those up onto the market for growing families. And so if you can get supply and demand in line, your values are going to be more stable, still going to go up, but they're going to be a little bit more stable, and we're not going to see the spikes that we have seen.
Well, nobody wants to pay taxes, but those pay for essential services that we have in the community. You were mentioning it before we came in. That we pay for our roads, we pay for our firefighters and our police officers and our teachers, and those people all need cost of living raises. So some of that increase in valuation, some of that increase in taxes goes to pay those people.
It absolutely does. I think the bigger question, you look at each of the entities that we're talking about, the city, the county, and the school district, and I don't believe any of those organizations are frivolous in their spending. They're all conservative. They all run tight budgets. And it's sometimes easy to be an armchair quarterback and say, well, this is higher than it should be, and they could have cut this and could have cut that. Maybe. But in most cases, my experience is we have a very well-run city, a well-run county, and a well-run school district, and we really have very few things to gripe about. And at the end of the day, if somebody is really that upset about it, they probably need to run for office and get involved and see what's going on.
Well, and there was some property tax relief that came down from the state in increasing the exemption on housing. We'd be remiss without mentioning that. No,
they did back off a little bit on homes. I think they gave the exemption up to a $100,000 home or something like that was exempt from state tax. But you also have to realize that the state tax is $1.5 million, so it's not particularly significant in the overall tax bill that people get. While that helps, they also have, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they've reduced the sales tax on groceries, and that has made somewhat of an impact. Although, when you have the city, county, and school district all live partially on sales tax, and you take a component out of their revenue equation, they have to get that from someplace else. And they could potentially cut costs, but that's not an easy deal either, because as you mentioned, the majority of any organization's costs are people costs, and I assure you, those are not going down. The county had open positions for their heavy equipment operators for a long time. I think they still do, because they're unable to pay a wage that somebody can get doing that someplace else. So they have a lot of challenges. Police the same way, but the city's ability to recruit policemen, you got to pay them a decent amount because they can command that in other places.
Well, another people cost is also insurance, and not only insurance for health insurance for people, but insurance on property. That has gone up a lot, too. I know that's a big line item for a lot of those taxing entities.
The insurance industry has kind of been turned upside down as of late. They've had huge claims, a lot of catastrophic events. They pass those costs on to their customers. They don't have any choice. And yes, that has resulted in some challenges. So it's a challenging time. It's not going to change. I think we're going to continue to see things like that. And people just need to understand and educate themselves on how this works and why things increase when they do.
Very enlightening, Doug. Before we go, you have a Think Like an Entrepreneur class coming up. Tell our listeners a little bit about that.
Yes, we do one of these a year typically, our Think Like an Entrepreneur class. It's an 8-week class. It's conducted by Chris Munch. And if you know Chris, Chris is a classic entrepreneur. He's been involved in everything from bars, and now he's in the restoration business. He does home remodels and that kind of thing. So he conducts this 8-week class. They meet once a week starting September 25th. You come in, it's about a 2-hour class on that evening. You cover a book that is basically an entrepreneur book called The Ice House, about a ice house guy, a guy that operated an ice house in the southern United States. And it's really a great opportunity to learn some things about the mindset of an entrepreneur, but also to engage with Chris. Chris brings in local speakers to talk about their experiences, and also to engage with the other people in the class, and in terms of what they're doing, what their thoughts are. So it's a very thought-provoking sessions, and I would recommend it to anybody who has interest in being in business for themselves or has an idea that they think they could grow their business with or something like that. It's just a great class.
What's the cost for the class?
I believe it's $150 is the cost, and we feed you each week. So you get a free meal with that. You get the course book and some content from the course, and time well spent, I assure you, if you have an interest in being a business owner, or if you are a business owner and want to expand your horizons, I highly recommend the class.
And that's at Brief Space?
It is. We conduct it in the conference room at Brief Space or in our training room. I think I'm not 100%. It's either Wednesday or Tuesday nights. I think it's maybe Tuesday nights each week from like 6 till 8 o'clock. Sometimes it goes longer than that if you want to hang around and talk with people. Lots of times it does, but that is the official time of the class.
Okay. And how do you sign up?
Well, you go to our website, or you call our office, or you stop by, whatever you want to do. Call me. You can get signed up. I think we've got 11 or 12 signed up right now, and we'd like to get 15 to 20 would be a great class size. And so we've got room for people, and strongly encourage people to sign up for it. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all.
Okay. Anything else going on at Grow Haze that you'd like to add?
Well, I've mentioned it before, but we talked about Brief Space, and it's being held at Brief Space. We are still operating with bare cement floors downstairs because of some water issues we had down there. So people need to bear with us a little bit on that. But we're making it work, and we're going to get those fixed and be back right where we were pretty quickly. Okay.
And people can still rent out space there?
Yeah, we still are operating like we have been. Haven't really changed much. So, and we do have I think a couple of spots open in the facility if people are looking for a more permanent office, maybe wanting to get out of the house and get into a little better environment. We'd love to have you come down and look at Brief Space. Not only do you have access to the conference room, the training room, we've got a 1 gigabyte internet connection. Actually, we've got a couple of them. Both Nextech and Vive provide us with 1 gigabyte internet connection. So we've got redundancy down there for connectivity. We've got a coffee bar. We've got meeting rooms, phone booths. It's a great environment to do business in.
And you accept people on a temporary basis, right?
Come in for a day, come in for a month. We have hot seat arrangements where you just come in and find a spot. We have permanent locations where you can set your monitor, have a file cabinet, and that's kind of your office. We have a real estate office that operates down there. That's their business site, and works quite well for them.
So even though that the floor is up in the basement, are you still using that for meetings, and people can schedule that for meetings?
We are. It's very totally functional. It just doesn't look very good. So we're gonna get that cleaned up and fixed. But we haven't moved yet because we're trying to make sure we know where the source of the water was before we put a new floor down, and then find out that we didn't get the problem completely resolved. So functioning just fine, just doesn't look very good. We had a big crowd in there yesterday, 40 or 50 people, and it was no problem at all.